Thanks, everyone. Excited to spend the next 45 minutes here. Hopefully, I know we're inching closer to drinks, so that's always a good thing. Only a couple more sessions, but excited to share the story of ConnectWise and really the tremendous growth that they've seen over the last few years and how Optimizely has played a part of that growth and kind of the story of how they got here and where they're going in the future too. So before we get started, quick question for the audience. Show of hands, who's an experimentation client? Okay, CMS or commerce? Okay, CMP or ODP, all the acronyms? Okay, cool. So a pretty good mix. Awesome, perfect. That's great. I think, we'll touch on some certain areas and hopefully you're able to take away some learning points here from what ConnectWise was able to do. So just quick introductions. I'm Mike Kovach. I'm a sales executive at Whereoware. Quick plug, stop by our booth later on. Say hi to us. Very thrilled to be joined by Steve Foster, Senior Web Strategy Manager at ConnectWise. I think the title itself, he does a lot. He really owns digital from that perspective as far as in working together and collaborating with our team to be able to move ConnectWise and move the organization forward from what they're doing from a digital perspective. So very excited to be up here on stage and presenting here with Steve. Just a quick background on Whereoware. So we have been a partner for a very long time, came from the Episerver world, if you will. But it's great as an agency like us that has disciplines and areas around data, content strategy, commerce, really kind of everything that Optimizely, as you see it today, and the exciting news of what's been brought to the table as well as they look towards the future. It really plays well, and it's been great for us, for our customers along that journey to continue to have that investment from Optimizely to really, again, help our clients better enable and better serve their customers. You can go ahead. I think you have a clicker.
Thanks, Mike. So again, the first slide, we talked about the journey that we're on, and we're very much in the middle of that journey now. I'd love to say that we've done it and we've gone through, but we're learning just as everyone else here in this room, and excited to have the partnership that we have with Whereoware that have really been helping us innovate and bring our company to the next level. So ConnectWise, who we are, what do we do? We've actually been around for 42 years. We started as a small managed service provider, and you outsource IT to a company and have them do that. So eventually what ended up happening is the company continued to grow and said, hey, we can make software to help run our company and then help other companies like us run their business. So that's what we do. So 42 years later, we are now one of the largest in the world and at providing IT solution providers with unmatched software services and most importantly, a community. So when things go wrong, ransomware and cybersecurity attacks, things like that, you have not only software to rely on and software to use to help with that, but you have a community of other people who are willing to rally behind you. And that's been a big key power of our growth. So you can imagine with the pandemic coming in 2020, the need for cybersecurity, the need for IT and outsourced IT just grew tremendously. So where we are today, we're about 3,100 employees worldwide, 700 engineers. We have offices in 8 countries. And just last year, we prevented 1.4 million cybersecurity incidents with our clients. So this growth, right, you can imagine from 2018 to today, 1,800 employees, and then we've steadily added more employees, made acquisitions, bought software, bought companies. So now anyone here in this room who's ever done that, you can appreciate integrating tech stacks, integrating websites, content, trying to get all brands together. So that was the journey, and that's where we came to meet up with Whereoware to help us with that, because as you can imagine, with growth comes challenges. So that's where we came in.
And certainly growth, a good challenge to have, right? But as Steve was talking about, disparate systems, different business units, and I think a big challenge is keeping the eye on the customer, the voice of the customer itself, and what they're looking for and how they want to interact with the brand. They don't see them as all these disparate, separate entities. They see them as ConnectWise, right? And there's a lot of new types of customers with all this growth and the acquisition. And again, it's not stopping, right? So having that kind of foresight to do it is very, very important. And to quote one of the most respected technology minds out there, with all these challenges, they can't stop, right? So I was limited to one Taylor Swift reference, so thank you for bearing with me. It's now over. But the whole idea is it's not stopping, right? So it's not just something, it's not a project, right? It's a journey, and how can you continuously evolve and make things better, drive revenue. And so this, again, as Steve was mentioning, throughout that life cycle, there's a lot of different things that happen, right? I think one of the things you talked about before, there's a move from Sitecore to Optimizely itself.
Yeah, so I joined the company in late 2021 and was being interviewed to be a web strategy manager, saw the website, was ready to come in with my suggestions in that. I got hired, and we were launching one of our biggest conferences of the year. And as you know, how marketing likes to have surprises and keep things hush-hush. The day I started, I looked, the whole website was changed, new branding, new everything. So not only did the company move from Sitecore to Episerver, 6 months later, they did a complete rebrand and refresh. So we're still living the challenges of doing that at that speed, renaming things, rebranding things. So just to give you an idea what that looked like, you can imagine with acquisitions and before you're a partner, once you're a partner, by the way, we call our customers partners because the end customers are the lawyers' offices, the dentist offices, the companies, but our partners are the IT solution providers who help those companies out. So we had our main corporate marketing site, then we've got our conferences that we run that are big community events. Then we've got a marketplace of tools and apps that you can add on to the software that integrates with, so that you can run your company more often or run it better.
And I think, again, simply put, right, with all these, a lot of different products, a lot of different ways in which these customers and partners can then engage with ConnectWise. And it's a simple representation here because you can only fit 3 on the slide, but there's a lot of other digital properties, again, from the acquisitions, from as they were shifting, different types of customers that were coming in. And so that there was points of friction because of the way that they were initially set up. So the whole idea and kind of working together was then to work to bring these experiences together to make it much more of a frictionless experience for that end partner.
So just quick show of hands, how many people have lived this problem in your workforces where you're trying to just, hands up, maybe I don't want to feel so alone here. You're dealing with, this changes. Okay, we've got technology stacks that are changing. We've got companies, the processes, we've got all that. So we've got to get a handle on that. And then how do we make Episerver, how do we set Episerver up, not only for what we need now, but what we need in the future? Because we've grown from, a smaller, upscale, like fast growth company to now a major enterprise company with processes and rules and centers of excellence. And so that really requires a shift, right? I think we'd all agree what got you here won't necessarily get you there. So we wanted to get ready for the next phase. And to do that, we needed a system. We wanted to make sure that whatever we did, that we weren't just, hey, we need a new website, let's build a new website. And then 18 months later, someone says, hey, we need a new website again, and let's build it from the ground up. We didn't want to get into that cycle. So we wanted to really think ahead, think strategically, and build something that would be flexible, that would allow us to scale quickly, and allow our team members to really bring solutions to market at the speed the market and the pace of the market demands today. So I don't know if you want to add to
I think, points. Again, from our perspective, the big thing that we're trying to instill is how can we empower Steve and his team of non-technical people to really feel like they own what is happening so they can look at the journey itself and have an impact and not necessarily rely on technical or developers to then be able to have these changes. That's that part of speed from the work that we've done that there's really a big impact, right? So it's not, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but as far as an efficiency perspective, how can we stay from a nimbleness in what we're doing that matches the expectation of the end partner, the end customer at the end of the day?
Yeah. And as Mike touched on, again, we serve a broad community. You can imagine trying to run this kind of business is very technical, but there's marketing and there's billing and things like that. So there's different solutions that we're trying to incorporate and make available to our partners, and they all have different journeys. They all have different things that we can do, and we're going to touch on that a little bit later about the journeys and how Whereoware helped us map those out, get a handle on those things and what we did. Excited to share that. But again, it's the people. We've got non-technical people. I know EpiServer, when I came into this, I realized, wow, this is very dev-centered. I'm not a developer, right? I'm a marketer and a tinkerer, and have learned a lot about web just growing up and working through my own business. But then I joined ConnectWise with a team of unbelievable marketers and top minds from around the world. So excited to share about that.
Yeah, and a little bit of the shift too, for which I think a lot of customers that we have experience a similar challenges. To their end customer, they organize and portray themselves as they view themselves internally, right? So maybe by their own products or even their different business units themselves, but it's really about kind of flipping that around to how does that end customer view the entire entity itself of ConnectWise and what's important to them, right? And then, so within the work itself, that really the two big, back to the journey part, is understanding with all this growth, these new business units, the divisions of the organization, the products, right? The journeys needed adjustment to then be able to match where they were today, right? So this meteoric growth, but from that perspective, kind of looking at it through the lens of the customer. And then the other big part too, for Steve, as we touched on, is how can we get his team more efficient? How can we help them, whether it's making small content changes, things like that, to where it's not a burden or taking an elongated period of time to be able to do it, right? So it's giving that power back to the marketer, where at the time, right, when we had first engaged, that wasn't necessarily the case. So to do it, really, as we kind of engaged, we saw there were two really big opportunities for us to focus on. There's a technology piece of it, and we'll talk about that in a second. But also then using data, both qualitative and quantitative data, to help have an impact on that customer experience, and not just jumping right into execution, but again, kind of collectively taking a step back to kind of think through, like you were saying, what you did to get here won't necessarily get you here. So kind of having that self-realization to take a step back of, great, let's figure out what it is from a customer experience perspective that will get us to that next level.
And I don't know about you, but it often feels like I'm drowning in data, but starving for insights, right? I don't need necessarily more data, more cowbell. I just need, help me do what we're trying to achieve a goal. We're trying to serve our partners. We're trying to serve our clients. We're trying to understand them better, trying to understand what their journeys through our sites and the multiple properties that we have, what does that tell us, so that we can then turn it around and help people get access to the information that they need at the time they need it, without searching everywhere, trying to dig through our content and find it. So,
yeah, and to that point too, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in this room, it's, your customer, maybe they work with you in one very specific either product or service line, right? They could probably get a lot of value from some of the other areas that you're doing as a business as well. I hear it quite a bit from sometimes those people who are only working with you in one area don't even know that you have these other capabilities. That would really help them as far as moving their business forward. So kind of aligning from that perspective and looking at it from that journey standpoint to help have an impact on cross-selling and upselling, and really knowing and having that 360 view of the client was really, really important for us.
Yeah. And when we initially engaged with Whereoware, I think the engagement started out as trying to refresh our brand, trying to give a style uplift and maybe get some improvements in some of the experiences. And we quickly realized through their help and just in working through it, that in order to set us up for the future, it might make sense to go from 11 to 12. It's kind of like going from iPhone 6 to iPhone 14. You know that the other one's going to be deprecated and things are going to no longer be supported. So if you're going to really set yourself up, maybe not trying to build and tack on new things to something old that is maybe going to be more difficult to support. So we made the decision to move to CMS 12 so that we could take advantage of all the new things that are coming. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about some of the things that I heard. As far as the visual editor, I think it's going to be a huge thing for us. We currently use another low-code tool just to get the more interactive pieces, and then use Episerver Optimizely for the pieces where we want that speed, we want that replicability and templates. So moving to Optimizely 12, is going to require some help, which we got from our good friends over at Whereoware.
Yeah. Has anyone here made the move to 12 yet? Or anyone contemplating it at the moment? Contemplating? Okay. Gotcha. Definitely some benefits there. And I think this is, back to that piece of it too. And as Steve was talking about, which is great in a client, right? Where I think a lot of times you kind of get stuck thinking about, what do I have to do right now? But ConnectWise was really focused more on the longer term vision, 2 years, 3 years. If we are going to really kind of take a different approach to get us to that next level, we want to do it on the latest and greatest technology as opposed to building on something that is not that, right? So that was a big part. So yeah, really, from here, this is really how we, with what you're seeing here, to start to combine at a very high level, right? To start to combine what we're looking at from a customer experience perspective. Understanding, from a persona perspective or who your audience or your partners and customers are, I think, it's having that mindset of things have changed. There's new opportunities and new people that are working with us that we have not worked with before. So what does that mean? And then how does that then translate into, and I think, personas are great, but I am always more interested in talking more so from the journey part itself and how you start to understand, and it's never linear, right? There's always certain factors and no one has a straight line for how they're interacting with your brand. But not just from a website perspective, but when you start to look at all the different campaigns and things that are going on as well, how does this all then tie into that entire story for that customer itself? And then, again, it's at the end of the day, how can it's a very content heavy site. The types of organizations that you work with are those that are really want to do their research, want to be, have that content personalized to them and not have to sift through it to find it. So a big piece of it was really how do we start to architect and organize it and looking at the taxonomy to make it so that person doesn't have to think, right? It's as simple as possible. They know where to go. They know the journey that they're supposed to be on without them actually realizing it. And that's a big part as far as, when we say redesign and changing around, it's much more of the user experience itself and how we start to flip that script of being more product focused and how the business itself thinks of themselves to how does that end customer, that end partner think of us? So then I can start to move them down the correct journey, the correct funnel to add that value to the business.
And so we're going to talk about a few of the innovations that we brought to the table and that we really wanted to do, but we weren't exactly sure how to do. And so with Whereoware, we put our heads together. And I think, if you're going to choose a partner to help you with these implementations and help you with these things, you want someone where you feel like they get it, that, they have experience. And I think all the platinum partners that you see here at the conference, they get it, they've done it, they've worked on big projects. But really importantly, you want to have a partner that when things go off the rails a little bit, as we all know they do, you want to be able to have a partner that you can talk to openly from the same side of the table and look at the problem as opposed to looking at it and doing that back and forth. So that we've enjoyed that partnership with Whereoware to help us do that, and excited to show you, the before and then the after in terms of what the experience was like making some of these edits. quick story. So we're launching the new conference. Brand, marketing, hey, we're renaming all our solutions. We're going with this naming strategy. So you can imagine across a site of several thousand pages where everything is manually generated content, trying to find those brand mentions and update them and make sure all of the lingo and language is consistent across the board. It involved, this was a huge pain point for me last year, but we're looking at around 700 to 800 individual blocks that had to be updated. And with the check, click, this, that, update, check, publish, review, publish. It was about 12 to 15,000 clicks. I mean, I'm still, my physiotherapist has loved me for the next few months after that. So that's where we started from. And so there was a huge pain point that we wanted to alleviate. And so with Whereoware's help, we came up with the idea of a more powerful templating engine so that we could make content that was more data about the data. You got your product, no problem. You do everything you need to do, you're a product marketer, do everything you need to do about your product in your product page. And after that, we'll just drag and drop it and use it in different parts of the site. And then we'll just, if you want to update things, the whole site gets updated instantly. So that templating engine to be able to create, and I think with the visual editor, which is coming, but we were able to do it with Whereoware now.
Yeah, and I think too, it's that experience too across multiple sites, across multiple teams and departments that now get to reap the benefits of really what your team specifically and in collaboration with us were able to come up here. So again, when you're talking about, it's not just, it is that kind of future planning too, right? So it's not just the here and now where it is helping though, but it's what happens the next time we buy a company.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we integrate them into the
because we know that's going to happen. Acquisitions they're a reality, brand name changes, brand changes, Optimizely going to Optimizely 1. It seems like a small change, but there's a tone shift, there's new imagery that you want to make sure is consistent and is, as marketing that you're upholding and you're acting as good custodians of that brand. When you're trying to develop things on the site, if you're looking at blocks and things and you're trying to, and all you see is image not available, image not available. This was our situation. It's like, what block was that again? I don't know what that's going to give me. So one of the things that we did with this is that Whereoware helped us create more visuals so that when you go to pick something, because again, we've got a lot of non-technical people trying to do these things and we want to democratize their experience so they can generate and be in the market faster. You need something that's going to show you visually what you're going to get when you pick that particular block. So this was a nice innovation for us that it seems like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference when you're trying to explain things to people. So now, like I explained, those 38 product changes, great. 6 marketers, you each own 4 or 5 products, update your products, and then across the site, an hour later, we're ready to go. So that's what we're looking at. And so we're very excited about seeing that in action when we launch the site, which coming up in early 24.
Yep. And just to, this is a very simple representation of a journey. But I think, again, back to the challenges that we were trying to solve and how to make this more of a easy, frictionless, not having to think really for those partners that are interacting with ConnectWise, right? So really, journeys, again, there's no perfect journey. It's not linear. But I think, and this isn't even the exact representation of it, but I think one of the big challenges we were able to solve was the ability, and there's multiple journeys and people are going all over the place if they're here, right? So it can deviate frequently. But I think, kind of starting and figuring out, like, how do I simply portray this visually so that not just Steve and team start to think about it, but up to the C-suite and all the other different folks that are involved in digital and marketing start to really understand how we can have an impact and where that journey, where we want it to go, to then tie that to the business goal itself, right? So this is more of an example from more of a free trial, right? And a simple journey here. But I think really the way that we try to work is how can we help match ConnectWise's business goals at the end of the day? A big big initiative is how can we better cross-sell and upsell within the current partner and customer base, right? So lots of new offerings, lots of new products, and how can we kind of look at this journey and what's an ideal state to then use the power of Optimizely to then start to better personalize, really make that journey as simple as possible for whoever that end user is.
And so this visual representation, it seems simple, but trying to explain this, like when you're in it, you understand it, but when you're trying to get it to a point where you can have a conversation to understand complexity and to understand business processes and say, this is just one path. Maybe there's on-demand demos, live demos. You want people to raise their hand and get into chat and then have a sales conversation. And depending on where they are or time of day, it might go to this group or that group or which country they're in. So it's all of those routing. So having this and being able to just look at this enables those conversations. And so very thankful for just little simple key things like that really help facilitate those conversations with executive leadership and other teams that you're trying to portray what has to get done in order to render this great experience that you're trying to render.
Yeah, and especially when you look at a B2B journey and what that looks like, it's complicated, right? And as you were saying, there's a lot of different variations that can occur, but to be able to communicate this internally, to have that kind of stake in the ground of where the vision goes, it helps, right? It's something that
Absolutely.
Then you can continue to iterate on. It's certainly not something that you set and forget, again, similar to what we've talked about here the entire day, but it's something that needs continuous optimization moving forward to make sure that you're still seeing those benefits from the solution itself.
And so, where are we going from here? What's our plan? What are we looking at with Optimizely? We have done some fledgling work with personalization. We've proved it out. We integrate with Marketo and Salesforce. So we've proven out those integrations, and we can now provide more personalized experiences based on geography, based on, are you a partner? Are you a partner who still likes us? Are you all these fun situations that you run into is like, hey, I have a partner quote, right? And I have a partner testimonial. It's like, oh yeah, we need to get that off the site because they're no longer with us. These are real-time things that happen. So setting those up with data and personalization is something that we're excited about pursuing more of. We're also exploring, web experimentation, the CDP, the CMP, so we can improve our workflows. So we've got colleagues all over the world working on different things and trying to bring those workflows together. I'm very excited about and a passionate advocate within my organization of bringing that solution in because I think we're going to get a lot of efficiencies out of that. But ultimately, again, just want to say thank you to Mike and the team from Whereoware for the partnership. We're looking forward to it, and stay tuned for that site and new site in January.
Yeah, and the one last point I would add, I think it's kudos to Steve and the team there, where understanding that you can't just get stuck in what you're doing in that day, in that week, in that quarter, in that year, right? It's thinking of it longer. And what that step back kind of did for ConnectWise is realize that the foundation from a MarTech perspective, from an Optimizely perspective, from a demand gen team perspective, from all these different business units there, it wasn't the right foundation to get to that next level. And again, this is step one, and as you continue to add on and look at other more fun, exciting from a data perspective and how you can continue to leverage that with ODP, right? There's endless possibilities, but you can't do all of that effectively without that strong foundation. And I think it's not throwing a piece of tech at something to solve the problem. It's the people, it's process, and it's the strategy behind it that really enables your team to go where they want to go as an organization.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, we're still on the journey. I'm learning. So if you have experiences, I'd love to learn from you as well, because I'm sure that you have experienced some things. But if I can help, then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And with that, we can just open it up to questions. We would ask that we have some lovely ladies back here that are going to act as runners that will get you the mic. We ask that you wait for the microphone if you have a question so that we're recording the session and they can hear it as well. Any questions? Anything's burning that you're working on these days?
How far are you in the CMS 12?
I can repeat. How far are you in the CMS 12 upgrade?
So we are greenfield development. We're building it. We've got CMS 11 operating as our live production environment, and we're now in the process of building CMS 12. We've got our integration server spun up. We're starting to look at content migration. How are we going to do that? And we're going through some of these things, and we're going to be testing out in the coming month or so. Really kind of getting into the house. Like I keep using this house analogy. We're getting ready for the move. We're cleaning out the garage. We're throwing out all the old tax files. We're trying to get all our data cleaned up so that it's ready to move into this new environment, this brand new house. And so we've got the keys to the house. We're touring it around. The kitchen's not yet in, and the downstairs bathroom still needs a bit of work. But we're excited about it, and we're excited about the innovations that Whereoware has enabled us to do that's going to make our lives a whole lot easier, and our colleagues, our internal stakeholders' lives a whole lot easier, from content authoring to updating to integrating new sites to integrating new brands, brand changes, et cetera.
I was wondering, from a marketing and a business perspective, the decision to move off of Sitecore into, I guess, Episerver or Optimizely, what was that decisioning like?
That was, unfortunately, before my time with ConnectWise. So I joined in November 21, and they moved in May of 2021. So couldn't tell you.
From what we hear most frequently, obviously I'm biased, we're at the Optimizes conference, but I think you look at the roadmap itself between the vision for the future, right? I think Optimizely, if you compare it to any of your options out there today, collectively as a whole, right? So not just one single piece of it, but how it all works together with one another, I think you'll have a very hard time finding anyone, even Sitecore, that can match that type of capabilities. It is, I think there's also an element too, as far as who that solution is trying to empower. And again, I've been in the Opti world for a decade at this point, and the message has been consistent that the marketer is who Optimizely wants to empower. And they have stayed true to that, and they've given them more insight to then activate on what they're trying to do than ever before. But it's built for people like Steve. Good question.
Yeah, I have a question about multi-site. How many sites do you guys actually support? And do you guys share these component blocks between multiple sites? And if so, how's that experience?
Great question. So I'll start with where we are today. So where we are today, we have maybe 4 or 5 sites that are multi-site, part of that multi-site instance, and we do share blocks across. One of the things that when this was originally done, and again, Whereoware kind of helped us identify, and so we wanted to shift that, is that anything done code-wise, style-wise, things had major implications across every site. So, and there's risks associated with that. So now we're moving to a model that still enables multi-site, but it will enable individual stylistic choices, individual development, but still being able to share personalization, visitor groups, different blocks that you might want to share across different sites.
And I think it's really interesting too when you see the types of sites, they're very different from one another, right? The main .com in the purpose that it's serving, right? But it's all about this, from a customer experience perspective. So there's the main .com, Then you have a marketplace site, which is geared towards their, for their partners who can then see the different add-ons that are then available, similar to the app exchange, whatever Optimizely calls it now. They probably will change the name by the end of this talk. But as far as, again, that's a very different site and the intent of it and what purpose it is serving than their main.com site. But still having that ability, completely separate business unit, to have access to this component library, this design library, to have that flexibility while also still being able to maintain consistency, right? Because they don't want to eventually end up in a spot where you do have this, the marketplace team is doing their thing, .com team is doing their thing, and at one point the brands were together, but eventually you kind of go off. And we wanted to make sure that we set them up to maintain that consistency to better serve their customers at the end of the day.
And we've got a product called Screen Connect, which is really a digital journey. A lot of what we do, at the core level with our ConnectWise.com is we want people to raise their hand and have a conversation because it's complex, right? Here's my business, here's what I need, here's where I'm growing, here's what I'm trying to do. We need to have that conversation. But for something like Screen Connect, which is kind of like log me in, there are other solutions on the market so that you can do remote desktop and remote sharing, remote support. We have a product that deals with that. And so that's very much a digital journey. I didn't mention, but I think it's important to mention that Whereoware is also helping us with another site that we're building, so this marketplace site. I'm working primarily on the .com, but we've got colleagues internally and we're supporting this multi-vendor, multi-product marketplace where you can run ads, have vendors get onto the site, self-serve themselves, go through authentication, go through and the different rules that they would have in order to be able to what to sell and what they can offer and create those integrations for our partners. So that, and the idea here with this and what I'm excited about is that I compare it to a flywheel. It takes a long time to kind of get going, but some people are like, we want this quick. So we're just going to go, we're going to go to HubSpot. We're going to go to this. We're going to use this other technology. And so what we've been trying to do strategically is get everything, the problem solved, because the problems we solve in one group have inevitable implications and advantages to another group. They're having the same problem, but they're looking at spending money there. They're looking to spend money there. So instead, we're bringing it together to now solve problems and unlock capabilities for everyone, for the whole organization strategically.
Hi. So how did you go about managing the integrations that were affected as part of this migration? Was that in scope for this relationship?
Yes. And I mean, some of the integrations are simple enough to do. They're running and they're independent. We just want to make sure that that we've got feature parity and none of those business rules. Because the last thing you want to do is, hey, why are we getting less submissions and less inquiries? We have to make sure that when the site goes live, that all of those underpinnings for free trials, when people are getting set up for conversations, on-demand demos, that all those systems are still working. So yes, you wouldn't want to just move this without thinking through. So again, for us, Salesforce, Marketo, key integration. Salesforce is where our source of truth about the customer. Marketo is everything about the logic and emails and business rules of, okay, you filled out this form on this page at this time in this country, therefore, I'm going to send you here as opposed to there.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that too is, you probably hear the word discovery and kind of starting and understanding, right? But I think the big emphasis, it's really around technical strategy. Right? So how can we, from that perspective, we aren't just interested when we start talking about integrations. We are, of course, what ConnectWise is trying to do right now or at launch. We are interested in having the conversations of, as best as we can, how can we anticipate what it looks like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and where you see the business goals then aligning so that even from a technical perspective, we have that in the back of our heads. Because I think, our biggest fear as an agency is setting up a solution that eventually, runs it. We see it as much. That's why we don't really see projects. It's a journey, and how can we set you up as best as we can on that journey itself long term. And integrations is always a fun, tricky piece of the puzzle, but it's.
And we've thrown some good puzzles their way.
Oh yeah,
and they've been able to handle it.
Those are the big puzzles, 1,000 piecers, not the ones
Yeah.
my daughter does that are 10 pieces.
Yeah. Anything from this side of the room? Questions?
Still this side of the room.
Fantastic.
So it sounds like you're doing a really great job of, slowing down to speed up. But how did you manage stakeholder expectations that this would be a long tail project?
Great question. I think from the get-go, pointing out some of the key challenges and then relating those challenges back to key stakeholders and executive leadership, what they're trying to do, and just tying it back to, this pain point, how we haven't been able to do this, okay, well, that's a function of, without getting technical, that's a function of where we are today. And so we're trying to set ourselves up so that we can deliver our goals faster. And when this happens, you want to be able to respond in a quicker way. So I think it's really just about translating their needs and their pain points, staying as far, trust me on this one, stay as far away from the technical unless you have a very technical leader. But for the most part, they just want to know, I have a number to hit from a revenue and from a profitability standpoint. How are you going to help me? How's the site and our processes around that going to help us hit that number?
And I think it's understanding how can we find quick wins to then be able to communicate, right? And quick wins means I can't find a client that we have where quick win is consistent, right? Sometimes, and it's understanding and working with Steve to figure out, okay, your C-suite, what do they care about, and what will they see as momentum? So as quickly as you can identify, maybe it's just proving out that an integration can actually work, right? And there's documentation to support it. Sometimes it's, hey, look at this, we spun up this prototype in Figma. Here's a visual representation of what we're thinking, right?
And if you can keep the innovation going in your current, so you're answering that, because they just want to know this quarter, it's great that that's coming, but I want to know this quarter. So as we learn certain things, we're still working on our current solution, trying to limit dev and limit things that are going to have massive implications. But at the same time, we're trying things in the old house, if you will, so that we say, hey, this is really working. We'd like to incorporate this into the new site, so you can still test it real world instead of waiting. My big philosophy is, if it's better than if we're going to make a change, is it better than what we had yesterday? Great. Is it perfect? It's not going to be perfect, but let's not spend 6 months trying to make it perfect when it's better today. You come back tomorrow and you have something even better. Great, we'll do that. And just iteration and speed of iteration, to me, will trump perfect 6-9 months from now, because you've thought of everything, because you can't think of everything. By the time you get it all figured out, things are already changed. The business has changed. Oh, we sold off that unit. Oh, we did this. Oh, that market has changed. So just keep on the pace of continual innovation, while letting them know that you have their best interest at heart for the long term, while maintaining short term. Is that helpful? Okay. With a minute left, any final question? If not, we'll give you a minute of your life back. Get to the drinks faster.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yep.